Hey, this is another clip especially for the collectors and people interested in neon signage history. I have received another goodie pack from the US. This is what the mail did to it, but the contents were still fine. It comes from a friend who is a former employee of the Universal Electric Sign Company of Maspeth, New York, a name that is commonly seen on nice older beer signs. They have sadly closed in '99 after many years of production, and my friend was able to save some history from the dumpster. The buildings are still there. The larger one was glass bending, metal and assembly, and across the street was painting and dipping. So the mass production of neon signs was broken down into single work steps. So you see a weld here. So one person on a table would probably bend OPs every day, all day long, just the OP part with using jigs and molds maybe. Then the next person would bend the EN parts. And there were some stations that would even just do one single bend. And then a person would go and collect all the parts and weld them together and maybe weld the electrodes, and yet another person would do processing all day. And I was told that the company we're talking about today had 70 stations where people were bending, so that is a huge number for a neon shop. And the fine things that I have received in the package are all original drawings from that company. So these are partially copies that were used to cut out parts to make jigs, or copies that were used to make prototype signs. At the beginning of a sign there was a draft from the designer, and the company would make 2 or 3 to show the customer, the brewery, to get a release to go into serious production with a sign. And the prototype signs were bent on paper sheets like this, with a wire mesh to protect the pattern from the heat. And this is also what a regular neon shop would use to produce a single piece of a custom sign. They would have a paper drawing like this of the complete sign. And you see that there's a lot of comments on there, like extra high raises and the tube colors and where to put the splices and all that. So it's like an engineering drawing for the sign. So here we have a pretty Budweiser design with a duck and a cattail plant. I know that these were serious produced. I have seen photos. The duck has nice colors, green and orange. And this one is gold. So this drawing was either used to produce a prototype sign, or they used it to make molds and jigs for the serious production. And then they would make copies of it to protect the original and work with the copies. Then we have a little fish. And I haven't found out the sign that this came from. This could be a bow tie shape, so it could be a Budweiser sign. And you see very thin lines. I don't know if the contrast is really good on the video. In those thin lines you see the metal frame of the sign and the position of the transformer. So I might find out later on what sign this is from. Turquoise color. And this is a heat-resistant cloth used for bending. There were different types of heat-resistant cloth. I think this is some kind of glass fiber. Many years ago it was asbestos, then it was called non-bestos because it was an asbestos-free alternative. And this is bleached out pretty much. I will try to get a contrast-enriched photo for you. And it's the first interesting drawing, because I'm not sure if this sign ever made it to serious production, because this design with the bowling ball and the pins was used in a Miller series production sign. And Sharps and Miller Beer are not the same companies. So this is pretty cool. I might even think about making this one when I have the heat-resistant drawing already. And here we have a skier. I think this is from a Michelob sign. And it's an interesting complex part because it has different colors dipped tubes. Dipped red here, dipped gold here, then red again. And I don't know how they made them, because they have to dip at the very end when the tube is processed. The processing heat would burn the paint So they will weld the parts all together, process the tube, and then dip afterwards. And dip just this red and just this yellow. And that's not easy. So maybe they had a shaped little paint container where they would just selectively dip those parts. I'm not really sure. There's an item number again. Maybe I can find it in the catalog. And here's an O'Dowell's. And you see that this has been copied a few times. And again, thin lines here of the metal frame. And this looks like it's already the electronic transformer from Evertron, from the outline. So it's like one of the last signs that they made at the facility, probably. And a very deep green on these, and it's a green phosphor and then dipped in green paint, so almost as beautiful as emerald green colored glass. And this one has even all the details for the position of the electrode boots and the wiring, which wire goes from where to where, so it's a full detailed drawing. And this is another type of high temperature cloth. So here's a paper drawing of the sign. Again, there's a mechanical drawing in the back with the transformer. It looks like there's even item numbers for the screws holding the transformer. And some more comments here. I'll try to take a photo and enhance the contrast because I can't really read what it says here, and it's mirrored. And then you see that they copied this drawing, so this is the exact same handwriting here. They copied this to high temperature cloth, and that was done with silk screening. So like you print a t-shirt, the same process. Not really sure how they got it from this to the silk screen mask, but this is probably a real production item then that was used for a larger run of this tube, all bent directly on here. So you didn't need a wire mesh or anything else to protect this. You could directly place the hot tube onto this material. So this would be placed on a board of wood, and then, for example, if they wanted to bend this corner around a jig, then they would screw the little block of jig through the drawing on here, and then they would slap the hot and soft tube on here and guide it between those jigs and get it into shape. This is the oldest pattern, and I think this material still contains asbestos, so I'm going to seal it into clear plastic foil just to be safe. And my friend even has an original pattern of the rare Bud Light New York City skyline sign that I have, the one that I have brought from New York in '99 and where I have remade all the broken tubes myself. Being a New Yorker, he wanted to keep it, of course, but he sent me a scan, and that's what we see here.